Hello everyone. In today's session, we are going to explore one of the most witty and thought provoking plays in modern drama, George Bernard Shaw's Arms and the Man. Written in 1894, this play is a brilliant anti romantic comedy that challenges our traditional views on war, heroism, love, and social ideals. Shaw breaks down false romantic notions and exposes human pretensions with humor, satire, and a touch of chocolate. So, whether you were a student, a literature enthusiast, or just curious about this classic play, this session is for you. Let's start. Act 1. Setting. The play opens in a lady's bedroom in Bulgaria, in a town near the Dragoman Pass in November 1885, during the Serbo-Bulgarian War. The setting contrasts romanticism and reality. Rich Oriental textiles and half-cheap Viennese furniture suggest both aspiration and artificiality. Main characters introduced here. Raina Petkov, a young romantic Bulgarian girl from a wealthy and socially ambitious family, she is engaged to Sergius, the so-called hero of a recent battle. Catherine Petkov, Raina's energetic and socially ambitious mother who wants to appear fashionable and cultured. Luca, a proud and defiant servant girl who speaks with irony and has little respect for Raina's upper class sentiments. The man, later revealed as Captain Bluntschli, a Swiss mercenary fighting for the Serbs. Practical, tired, hungry, and not at all the kind of hero Raina expects. Plot summary. Romantic idealism. Raina is introduced on the balcony, dreaming of the stars, the war, and her fiancé Sergius, who has just led a heroic cavalry charge. Raina and her mother celebrate the news that Sergius has become a war hero by disobeying orders and charging heroically into battle. A fugitive intrudes. Suddenly, a Serbian officer bluntly climbs into Raina's room through the balcony to escape death. He threatens Raina to stay quiet or he will shoot her. However, she quickly realizes that he is not a threatening villain, just a tired, scared, hungry man with no ammunition or bullet, only chocolate in his pockets instead of cartridges. Disillusionment with heroism. Raina is shocked when he admits all soldiers fear death and that most charges are foolish. He even mocks her fiancé Sergius's dramatic charge, comparing him to Don Quixote, brave but foolish and theatrical. Raina, though offended, is forced to re-evaluate her ideas about heroism. Raina's compassion emerges. Despite his cynicism and realism, Raina begins to sympathize with the fugitive's exhaustion and honesty. She hides him behind the curtain from the soldiers who come to search her room. The romantic ideals she once had start to break or crack, and she begins to see human kindness and practicality as more admirable than showing of bravery. Humor and satire. The play is full of Shaw's trademark satire. Raina offers him chocolate with great dignity. He devours it gratefully. He mocks military strategy, officers, and even Raina's father being a major, though Raina says it as if it were a high rank. Shaw uses witty dialogues and ironic reversals to critique romanticize notions of war, heroism, and class. Ending of Act 1. Raina goes to fetch her mother, promising the man who is near collapse from exhaustion that he is safe in her house. He falls asleep on her bed with boots and all, clearly too tired to care about danger or decorum. Catherine enters and is scandalized to find a strange man sleeping in her daughter's bed. Raina, now seeing the man as the poor dear, defends him, showing her emerging emotional maturity and sympathy. Themes in Act 1: Romanticism versus Realism. Raina's ideals, heroic love, noble war, are challenged by Bluntschli's honest, practical worldview. The absurdity of war. Shaw presents war not as glorious but foolish and mismanaged. Soldiers are shown as scared and hungry, carrying chocolates, not bullets. Class and pretension. Catherine and Raina's pretentious social airs, Viennese tea gowns, library boasting are ridiculed. Bluntschli's grounded attitude contrasts their fake sophistication. Significance of the title Arms and the Man. The title is taken from the opening of Virgil's Aeneid, written in Latin as Arma viram qui cano, which means arms and the man I sing. It hints at mock heroic tone. Shaw sings not of the ideal soldier but a very human one, full of flaws and fears. The title sets the stage for debunking romantic war ideals. Act 1 of Arms and the Man is a brilliant blend of romantic comedy, political satire, and character development. It sets up the play's central conflict, idealism versus reality, through Raina's unexpected encounter with a most unheroic hero. Shaw cleverly dismantles traditional notions of war heroism and upper class superiority, offering instead a world where kindness and truth are more heroic than any battlefield charge. Act 2. Setting: A pleasant spring morning in Bulgaria, 1886. The Petkov's garden is a mixture of pretensions to sophistication, breakfast outside, Turkish coffee, and rustic domestic life, washing hung on the bushes. We can see minarets, Turkish influence, and the Balkan mountains in the background. Main action: The servants Nicola and Luca argue. Nicola wants Luca not to be insolent to their employers. Luca is defiant, saying she knows family secrets and doesn't fear them. Nicola calmly insists that a good servant's power comes from being discreet and loyal. Luca scorns this attitude, saying he has the soul of a servant. Nicola, unfazed or undaunted, says that is exactly why he succeeds. Petkov returns home from the war. He is cheerful, not heroic, pleased to be back and proud of his new rank. Catherine, his wife, is disappointed. Peace has been made, wishing they had conquered Serbia. They have a comical domestic squabble about washing necks, taking baths, and civilized customs like the new electric bill Catherine has installed. This contrast shows how superficial their ideas of civilization are. Sergei Saranov arrives. He is the romantic hero who led the famous cavalry charge of Bulgaria in Act 1. Sergius is introduced in a way that Sergius has no real prospects of promotion. Catherine insists he deserves it, especially since he is engaged to Raina. Main themes and character insights: Class and servility. Nicola shows the mindset of a clever servant who thrives by being useful and discreet. Luca wants to rebel against her position, foreshadowing how she will later try to better herself socially. Pretensions of civilization. Catherine and Petkov pretend they are refined modern Europeans. Their arguments about electric bells and daily baths show the shallow nature of their aspirations. Romantic illusions versus reality. Sergius's entrance sets up the contrast between romantic ideals of heroism and the ordinary flawed people in real life. Petkov's dismissal of Sergius's abilities hints that his famous charge was actually reckless. About Sergei Saranov. He is handsome and dashing. He has jealousy observant eye. He watches everyone suspiciously. A nose and chin that suggest he is combative and self-important. His charm is partly an act, like someone who would be at home in a fashionable Paris salon, not just a battlefield. This undercuts the idea that he is purely a gallant hero. This act introduces us to the reality behind everyone's public image. Petkov is just a genial country square playing at soldering. Catherine is ambitious and pretentious, but not truly sophisticated. Sergius looks the romantic hero, but is really a vain theatrical man. Nicola survives by being humble and clever. Luca dreams of breaking out of her lowly status. In this act, Major Petkov returns home from the war. Everyone is gathered in the garden. Petkov, the father, genial and sallow. Catherine, his ambitious, pretentious wife. Raina, their daughter, engaged to Sergius. Sergei Saranov, the supposed romantic hero, famous for leading a cavalry charge. This is when Sergius enters and the illusion of heroism starts to crack. About Sergius's character. Gibiso describes Sergius as handsome, noble looking, full of romantic ideals, but also cynical, vain, and theatrical, like a man acting out the role of a hero. Shaw writes that Sergius has been driven into intense activity by the arrival of Western civilization in the Balkans. Byronism refers to Lord Byron, the English poet, romantic, brooding, dissatisfied with ordinary life. Sergius, like a child herald, feels contempt for reality which never matches his ideals. He constantly feels disillusioned and misunderstood. He imagines himself as tragic, noble, and superior. So, although Sergius looks like the perfect hero, he is really posing a mix of cynicism and exaggerated ideals. Arrival of Sergius and his introductions. Sergius enters with gallant manners, kissing Catherine's hands. Catherine and Raina adore him and see him as the embodiment of their romantic dreams. Petkov is friendly but less impressed. The cavalry charge. Catherine praises Sergius for the charge that won the battle. Sergius ironically calls it the cradle and the grave of my military reputation. The cradle means that's when everyone first heard of him and called him a hero. The grave means it also destroys his military career. The same act made him famous and ruined him. Why did it ruin him? Sergius said, I won the battle the wrong way when our worthy Russian generals were losing it the right way. That upset their plans and wounded their self-esteem. Two of their colonels got their regiments driven back on the correct principles of scientific warfare. Two major generals got killed strictly according to military etiquette. These two colonels are now major generals, and I am still a simple major. He explains he won the wrong way. The Russian generals had a plan based on correct scientific military rules. Sergius did something reckless and unexpected which worked but embarrassed them. Because his charge disrupted their plans, they were angry even though it succeeded. As a result, two colonels failed correctly and got promoted to major generals. Sergius, who won, stayed stuck as just a major. It is ironic because normally we expect success to be rewarded and failure to be punished. But in this military system, success that embarrasses higher officers is punished. Failure that follows the correct procedures is rewarded. This is absurd, and that is why Sergius calls soldiering a tradesman's business, not a noble art. Shaw satires the pretensions of military professionalism. The idea that war is noble and heroic, the way bureaucracies care about rules and appearances than actual results. Sergius resigns. He dramatically announces he has resigned from the army. I never withdraw. This shows both his idealism, he won't be part of a corrupt system, and his melodramatic posing. The Swiss soldier story. Petkov asks Sergius to tell the story of the Swiss officer or Bluntschli who escaped after the battle. Sergius mocks him as a commercial traveler in uniform. He says Bluntschli ran away and hid in a lady's bedroom. The lady sheltered and disguised him. Neither Petkov nor Sergius realize that Raina herself is the lady who hid the Swiss. Raina's reaction. Raina is offended. Your life in the camp has made you coarse, Sergius. She doesn't want her romantic illusions spoiled by talk of improper adventures. Catherine's reaction. Catherine agrees. If such women exist, we should be spared the knowledge of them. This is ironic because she herself helped hide Bluntschli. Sergius apologizes. He feels ashamed of his cynicism and asks forgiveness. Raina is cold but polite. Petkov's pragmatism. Petkov dismisses all this fuss. A soldier's daughter should be able to stand up without flinching to a little strong conversation. He changes the subject to logistics, getting the regiments home. Catherine's maneuver. Catherine cleverly gets Petkov out of the way so Sergius and Raina can be alone. She distracts her husband by showing him the new electric bell. This leaves Sergius and Raina free to have a romantic moment. Raina and Sergius alone. Sergius worries Raina is still offended. Raina opens her arms to him. They exchange grand theatrical declarations. Raina, my hero, my king. Sergius, my queen. It looks romantic, but Shaw is showing us they are acting a fantasy. Their relationship is based on ideals, not reality. Sergius and Luca. Sergius is engaged to Raina, but here he is flirting with Luca, Raina's maid. Luca teases him about being unfaithful. Sergius is conflicted. He feels he is a hero, a buffoon, a humbug, a blackguard, a coward, and jealous like all cowards. Luca hints Raina also has a secret love. Sergius gets jealous and tries to force Luca to tell him who it is. Luca stands up to him and humiliates him by asking him to kiss the bruise he gave her. He recoils in horror. Luca proudly leaves, exposing Sergius's hypocrisy and confusion. This whole scene shows Sergius is torn between his noble ideals and real desires. Meanwhile, Bluntschli, the chocolate cream soldier, has returned Major Petkov's coat, which he escaped in. Catherine panics. If her husband finds out Bluntschli hid in Raina's bedroom, there will be a scandal. She tries to hurry him out through the back gate. But Petkov and Sergius spot him and warmly welcome him as an ex-enemy and military expert. Raina comes out, sees Bluntschli and blurts out, "Oh, the chocolate cream soldier." This nearly exposes everything. Catherine invents a story that Raina was talking about her ice pudding dessert. Nicola appears carrying Bluntschli's bag, making it even more obvious something is being hidden. Petkov orders Bluntschli to stay as a guest. Raina sweetly insists he stay. Finally, Bluntschli, seeing there is no escape without more suspicion, gives in. Well, if I must, I must. Act 3. The whole act takes place in the Petkov's library after lunch. Setting. The library is not really scholarly, it's decorated more like a cozy drawing room with military trophies. The characters present. Blansley is now clean, well fed, efficient, writing military orders. Sergius is pretending to work but basically watching Blansley in awe. Petkov is lounging around enjoying himself. Catherine is sewing, Raina is daydreaming. Military business. Blansley is managing all the logistics for the troops. Sergius is embarrassed that he can only sign papers while Blansley does the real work. Petkov offers to help but cannot contribute. Catherine scolds Petkov for interrupting. The old coat. Petkov wants his old house coat. He hates the formal uniform. Catherine insists it's in the blue closet. Petkov bets it isn't there. Sergius jokes and bets a horse on it. Raina joins in, teasingly wanting the horse. Nicola goes and easily finds the coat. This surprises Petkov. We as the audience know Blansley secretly put the coat back earlier. Military orders completed. Blansley finishes the work. Sergius and Petkov go off to give the orders to the soldiers. They call Catherine to help because the men are afraid to face the consequences. When the men are quarreling, Sergius raging, Blansley trying to stay calm, Raina accusing everyone, things get totally out of control. The men, Major Petkov, Sergius, and even Blansley are all embarrassed by the scandal, love affairs, jealousy, social impropriety, unable to handle the emotional outburst. In Shaw's words, the men have all these grand ideas of war and heroism, but when real domestic trouble appears, they run to Catherine for help because she is the one person they cannot handle. It's Shaw's way of mocking their pretensions and showing that domestic authority or Catherine is stronger than military bluster. Men's bravery often collapses in the face of an assertive woman. Petkov and the missing photograph. Petkov is teasing Raina affectionately when she cleverly steals back the photo of herself she once hid in his coat pocket. She had given it to Blansley as a souvenir of their night together. Blansley hides the photo quickly from Sergius, who is suspicious. It proves Raina was hiding something. She has a connection with Blansley. The chocolate cream soldier revealed. Petkov finally realizes someone took the photo. He asks Nicola the servant about it, then jumps to the wrong conclusion that Sergius is the chocolate cream soldier. Blansley steps up honestly and says, I am the chocolate cream soldier. This confession shocks everyone. Blansley admits Raina saved him by feeding him chocolates and hiding him. Sergius and Luca. Raina says she doesn't love Sergius. Luca the maid boldly claims she is Sergius's true love. Nicola, who was supposed to be engaged to Luca, says he never really cared. He only pretended to protect her reputation. Sergius then publicly proposes to Luca. It shows Sergius's hypocrisy. He acted noble but secretly loved Luca. Luca wins him with her boldness. Blansley's romantic idiot speech. Blansley tries to clear up the misunderstanding by saying he is too old as he thinks Raina is 17 and too ordinary for Raina. He insists it was all just a silly adventure for her, but Raina angrily corrects him she is 23, not 17. This turns Blansley and makes him realize he was serious. Raina actually did care for him more deeply than he guessed. Blansley proposes. Once he realizes Raina is not a child, Blansley formally proposes to marry her. Catherine tries to reject him by boasting about their high status. Petkov protests that Raina is used to a comfortable establishment, horses, servants, etc. Blansley's true status revealed. Blansley calmly blows everyone's mind by saying he owns 200 horses, 70 carriages, thousands of tablecloths, 600 servants, and 6 palatial establishments. Everyone is shocked. He is a millionaire hotel owner's son. Though he looked like a poor vagabond soldier, he is far wealthier and more powerful than any of them. Raina's final surrender. Raina pretends to sulk and refuses to be sold to the highest bidder. Bluntschli says he doesn't care about the wealth. He fell for her when she helped him as a fugitive. He catches her hand and gently forces her to admit the truth. Raina shyly finally confesses, "To my chocolate cream soldier." Bluntschli leaves. He instantly becomes businesslike again. He is still a practical man. He says he will return in 2 weeks to finalize everything. Everyone watches him go, awed by his mixture of realism, humor, and decisiveness. Sergius's final comment. Sergius sums it up in one line: "What a man, what a man." This shows Bluntschli is the real hero, not Sergius. The real hero is not the flashy cavalryman, but the calm, practical, modest Bluntschli. Romantic illusions collapse. Women Raina and Luca choose honestly instead of pretending. Social pretensions, rank, wealth, reputation are exposed as silly.